Around the Ozarks is now on your FM radio. Listen to Around the Ozarks mornings with Grace Gooley as I spotlight local people, stories, and podcasts, all while playing the country legends of the 90s and the hit makers of the 2000s. It's on the Ozarks Best Country, 105.1 The Bull.
Today we go beyond the gate and into the pet industry to learn about Ozark Fisheries and Margaret Cleveland. Margaret, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to talk about fish. We're going to talk about you. But first, I want to go back a few years because I feel like we've known each other a really long time, but it really hasn't been that long.
Just a couple years.
How did we meet?
Via email. I emailed you.
Yes. It was like cold email, and I was like, who is this? Why don't I know about Ozark Fisheries? And I think that was one of the things I was like, oh, Stoutland. So it was a quick Google to learn about what you guys do. But my sister and I had a marketing company, and we got to work on a very special project, a video project for your family, celebrating 100 years in 2026, which is now.
We're very excited, yeah.
Yes. And then our paths just kept crossing as we are active in Missouri agriculture. We've sat at banquets across or next to each other. We've just ran into each other in passing. But most recently, we are both proud Missouri ALOT alums, Missouri Agriculture Leaders of Tomorrow.
Yeah, I just finished my 2-year session, my cohort, yeah.
And I will not talk about how many years. I was class 16. You were class
20.
That feels like longer, but I guess they're 2-year programs.
They're 2 years.
They're 2-year programs. I went to Vietnam, and you went to
Spain and Morocco.
So these 2-year programs, we travel the state. Learning about Missouri agriculture, and I know that some of the people we will be having on guests on this show will be connections I had from ALOT, including you.
Yeah, it's a really fun program, really interesting. You learn a lot about Missouri agriculture.
Absolutely. Well, before we talk about the fishery industry, who's Margaret?
Yeah, I am a 4th-generation fish farmer. So my great-grandfather started the farm back in 1926. I grew up on our Missouri farm. We have 2 farm locations, one in Missouri and one in Indiana, and grew up on the farm. Then got my degree in fisheries and wildlife at Mizzou, and took a break after college and went to South Korea and taught English for 3 years. It was supposed to be 1-year program, but I ended up staying for 3 and then came back to the farm, and I've been back on our Missouri farm now since 2018.
Well, let's talk about South Korea.
It's amazing.
What did you do while there?
I was teaching English with the Fulbright program.
So how did that land in your lap?
I studied abroad there during college and loved it, and then continued to go back for a couple years, and then decided I was going to move there. Again, it was going to be like a gap year.
Sure.
And it ended up being 3 years.
And then Dad was like, hey, come home?
I think it was just time. I think I was ready to leave the city, and I was ready. I knew, like, my degree's in fisheries and wildlife, so I knew from the beginning that that's where I wanted to land.
So we talk about, we're going to talk a lot about the fishery, but you have worn many hats over the years. I'm sure every single hat on the farm you have worn. But what hat do you wear today?
Today,
hats.
Yeah,
you can have more than one.
There's several. Today, I am VP of our operations at our Missouri farm, and I do all of our social media, our websites, put out fires during the day, make sure fish, and really help out wherever's needed. Like when we're really in our busy season, I may need to be picking fish or packing fish out. So I kind of move around a lot, but a little bit of everything.
So because we don't get to, well, when I first met you, I got to tour it. I got to see the entire operation from beginning to end, and I can still see that picture. We're on audio. We don't get to see that. So I want, as we talk, paint that picture. But diving deep into Ozark Fisheries, what is an ornamental fish farm?
Yeah, so we raise goldfish and koi. So all of our fish are ornamental, meaning that they are for you to look at, not for you to eat. So no food fish production. But we started raising goldfish and koi because my great-grandfather had a business partner that was in the nickel and dime stores, your Woolworths or your Benjamin Franklin stores. And those stores needed a source for goldfish in the U.S. And so he really loved fishing, and that's how he kind of got to where he is, so he brought those goldfish in, And ever since then, we've been raising fish on the farm. So the farm has gotten bigger over the years, but always we started with trout for a few years, didn't have a market for them, switched over to goldfish. But all of our fish are born and raised on our farm. It's a spring-fed farm, meaning that the water comes naturally up out of the ground. It's an artesian spring, and we've got ponds. We've got 350 about 1 acre ponds of water. And then the farm also, we have cattle as well. And so that's kind of surrounding the water around the outside.
So you hit on a lot of things that I want to tap into, but let's go back to trout.
Okay.
Because when you think of Southwest Missouri, when you think of Bennett Springs area, the Niangua River, I don't think goldfish.
Right.
Koi. I think trout. So that market, even 100 years ago, was not trout.
There wasn't, because we're so rural. So Stoutland is, 30, 40 minutes away from bigger cities now. And you think about in 1926, Route 66, they're celebrating their 100th this year as well.
Yes.
And so Route 66, part of it was still not even paved, right? And so he didn't have a place to take them for them to go. And so because he didn't have a market for them, I think he got into trout because he enjoyed fishing and then didn't have a market for them at that time. There are lots of trout, is very successful in Missouri now, but he just needed somewhere to sell fish, and that's where he ended up switching over to the goldfish and koi because they were newer to the United States. They're from Asia, and so they're newer to the U.S. And there were a lot of farms popping up in the early 20s and 30s.
So Benjamin Franklin's, there was one in my hometown. So going back then, that's where the first market was little dime stores.
Right, exactly.
We're talking about goldfish a few inches long.
Right, yeah, they're tiny. Well, we sell all sizes, but for the most part, most of them we sell are really little. And they would put them in those stores, in the back of the stores to make the parents...
I remember it.
Parents go through the whole store. Even today, fish stores, pet stores, will put the live animals in the back of the store.
Strategic marketing.
So you have to go all the way through the store to and they see all the other products there before you see the live animals.
That is interesting. As a marketer, I'm fascinated with that market plan.
Yeah, right.
So other thing you mentioned was water.
Yeah.
Water's important if you're going to raise fish.
Right.
Natural springs.
Right. So we have artesian springs on the farm that...
What's an artesian spring?
It just naturally flows up from the ground.
Okay.
So it comes up from the ground, and we're able to fill our ponds that way. They're flow-through ponds. They're about 4 to 6 feet in depth, and we can control the level in the pond based on the water. And most of our farm is gravity fed as well. So it's set up that even if the power goes out, the water's still running into those ponds.
We live in a cold environment a good portion of the year, so how does spring-fed water, what's that temperature? And are you worried about freezing temperatures?
Yeah, it's 58 degrees. And they do freeze over, but typically it's only a couple week period. And we would be concerned if it was more than just a 2-week period of a really heavy, total freeze over. But because we have water going into these ponds all the time, the pond stays at least a hole in the pond throughout most of the winter. And then the goal is just we stock the ponds at a light enough capacity that if it does freeze over and the oxygen drops, that the fish are going to be fine.
Interesting. That they can live and survive underneath. And you're calculating all of that the whole time. Right.
Well, in really cold water, the fish metabolic systems slow down, and so they're using less oxygen. So they don't hibernate per se, but they do go dormant. And so they're at the bottom of the pond. These are dirt ponds, so it's going to be warmer in the bottom of the pond. So they're just going to kind of sit there while it's iced over.
So you talked about all the fish are born, bred, raised on the farm.
Yeah.
Take me through the seasons of the farm and what happens each year, painting that picture.
Yeah, so we're really busy in the springtime and the summertime, but springtime is when things kind of come alive at the farm. The fish start spawning in May or June. It really depends on how warm how quickly it gets warm in the springtime. The water needs to be 72 degrees for them to want to spawn. Goldfish and koi are both in the carp family, and so they spawn, meaning the females lay the eggs, the males release the sperm. That egg is fertilized in the water, and so we bring in our brood fish or our parent fish in the spring. We spawn them in a spawning facility, and then we hatch those eggs out in a hatchery.
Are they naturally spawning, or do you Yeah.
No.
I don't know how to ask the question.
Good question. Yeah, so they would naturally be spawning in the ponds, but we bring them into a more controlled setting.
Okay.
We pair them up, like goldfish are paired one male, one female. With koi, they have a lot more eggs, so we pair one female to 3 males, and they are spawned in those tanks, and then we bring those eggs to hatch in a hatchery.
Okay, so now let's get into the genetics, because I know that has to come into play.
Yeah.
When you're selecting that sire, I raise cows, so I'm going to use those terms. You too, for that female fish.
Yeah, it's very similar to any other livestock. You have a perfect specimen that you're going towards, right? And you want to pick your brood stock, your parent fish, to be as close to that perfect fish as you can, so that hopefully those offspring will also have those genetics.
Now, what's that lifespan of that brood fish?
Yeah, what do you think? How long do you think a goldfish can live?
I think a really long time.
They can. So
I don't know what a really long time is,
A goldfish can actually live up to 25 years in a perfect environment.
25 years, yeah.
But I don't have a perfect environment on the farm because they're open ponds. They're open to predation. But in an average, probably a brood stock on our farm is, we don't start spawning them until the goldfish is like 2 to 3 years old.
Okay.
Koi are going to be 3 to 4 years old because koi can actually live like 75 years. So a long time.
Wow.
I know.
So, okay, I remember looking at them, and size-wise, these are big fish.
Right. Goldfish are, mature female goldfish can be like 10 to 14 inches in size.
Okay, and a koi?
Koi can be like 36, 40 inches. I mean, they are big. We call them the whales on the farm because they are very large.
Wow. So fascinating, because you walk into a pet store and you see these pretty fish. You don't think the science behind it. You don't think about who raised it. We more and more in the industry, we're thinking about like who raised that steak, but I don't think about who raised that goldfish.
And especially in Missouri, in the middle of Missouri, right? But like Missouri's known for their water, and that's why we're at where we're at, because if we did not have the water, we could not raise these fish.
Okay, I didn't let you get past spawning.
Okay, so no, the parent fish are brought in. It has to be like 72 degrees. It's in the springtime, and we are May and June. It's a 6 to 8 week period. So we have a really small. What's actually unique about not just fish farming, but like our farm in general, like ornamental fish, is we are spawning and our busiest selling times at the same time. So we're basically essentially like planting our crop and harvesting our crop at the same exact time. It's like a 3-month period in May, June, and July.
Wow. So you've spawned, you've hatched. What's the growing cycle?
Well, so we put them into a hatchery and they hatch out. How long do you think a fish egg or a carp egg takes to hatch?
I'm supposed to be asking the questions.
Oh, well.
I should have studied up. I have no idea.
What do you think?
A couple weeks?
It's a small egg. So typically the smaller the egg, the quicker it hatches.
24 hours.
3 days.
Okay, 3 days.
It's 3 days.
And you know what? I've been told this by you before,
I know.
and I don't remember it.
Well, there are a lot of like niche facts,
Yeah.
but 3 days. So they're in our hatchery for 3 days. They're the size of your eyelash. They're really, really tiny. Goldfish are born brown in color. Koi are born yellow. They're both a muted camouflage color because they're the size of your eyelash. They're really, really tiny. They're super vulnerable. So if you had that tiny fish that was the size of your eyelash and was orange, bright orange, it would stick out, right?
Yeah.
And so it takes them 60 to 90 days to change from that muted camouflage color to a whatever their natural color is going to be. They're going to continue to change. Really, a fish can change their color the entire life, but the most change is going to happen in the first couple months. But within the first year, a majority of the color is going to change for that fish. But they are. They're in the hatchery for 3 days. That egg, if it was out in the wild, could take 5 to 7 days because the temperature is going up and down. But in the hatchery, we basically have like fish egg incubators. They're big tubs, which we're staying at the same temperature and a good oxygen rate, and so they hatch on day 3 every time. Take them out. After they leave, they are the size of your eyelash, and they go into the ponds. So directly in the ponds really quickly. And you also have to think about, like, we're raising a lot of fish because they're at the bottom of the food chain. So everything can eat them. So they are super, super, I basically have a goldfish buffet, like anything can eat them.
The predators have got to be streaming.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
lots and lots of predators.
So at all stages of that fish's life,
right?
They're prey. So how do you? That was my next question. Good job. How do you protect them?
We can do a little bit. There's some, we can take some predators out of the system, but at the end of the day, we're just going to have to raise a lot of fish to provide for the environment, and then have fish at the end of the day to sell as well. So we're raising a lot of fish.
What is the number one predator?
Probably bullfrogs. We have thousands and thousands of bullfrogs, or herons. And then bald eagles are a big one. An eagle can eat like 2 to 4 pounds of fish per day, and they don't usually just come as one. They're in pairs, and they're a really pretty bird, and they're a protected bird, right? And so there's nothing that we can do, but it's not exciting when you see a pretty bird that has a really pretty fish, because I'm raising what are ornamental fish, which are what I consider pretty is light and bright in color. And what can a bird see from the sky?
Light and bright.
Light and bright. So I wouldn't care if they pick the ugly fish, but they always pick the pretty fish.
Of course.
So, right.
Because they want it to.
Right.
So feeding fish, what is in the diet? What's nutrition look like? And does it change based on their size?
So,
or age?
So baby fish are always fed what we call a mash. It's a really small, like mashed up flour consistency, and it's thrown out. We have a feed truck that has a special arm on it. That arm goes out over the ponds, and then a blower that blows it into the ponds. But when you're putting eyelash-sized fish into the pond, really they can't even eat that food. We can't produce a food small enough, so you always have to put them into a fresh pond that's been treated for everything else, and you're really feeding the bloom in that pond, the natural food source, until they get to at least a few weeks old, and they can eat the food that you're providing. So baby fish get a powder or a mash. Adult fish get a pelleted food, and we use sinking pellets on the farm because we want the fish to eat at the bottom of the pond, because again, they're light and bright. So if you bring them to the top, what can see them? Predators. And so we want to hopefully limit the amount of predators that can see them, especially from the air, by having them feed at the bottom.
So we've got this big pond of fish, and it's there at the age to sell.
Right.
I almost use the word harvest. We're not harvesting these fish.
So we call it harvest.
You
so
do?
You harvest them out of the ponds, but we're not harvesting them to eat, right?
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So I would have been correct.
Yeah.
So when it's time to harvest the fish out of the ponds, I mean, what do? Are you out there in your waders?
Yeah, not me. not usually me, but yes, you would go out. So we can control the level of the water in the pond, and so a majority of the fish we're going to actually seine, and a seine is just a really big net. You're going to seine the fish out. You're going to bait them to a corner, seine the pond a couple times, and then we'll drain it and get the rest of the fish out. So you seine a pond a couple times, and the fish actually learn to avoid the seine, and so then you're forced to drain it. And so the fish are taken by seine, then into a bucket, and the bucket is then put into our tank truck, and that truck is a special truck that has big live hulls on the back of it, like big, just basically boxes of water, and that's how we move the fish from the pond to the tank truck. And then that tank truck will either take them to another pond if they're not big enough, because we do have to, we'll not be ready to sell them, but they need more space to grow, and so we'll move them pond to pond. Or if they're ready to grow, they're ready to sell, the size and the color, we'll take them into our shipping building using that tank. And that tank truck will just go along our actual other tanks, our raceway tanks, and we move the fish from the tank truck to the tanks using like a PVC pipe, and it's like a fish water slide. They kind of just go down that pipe into that raceway.
What I'm thinking about right now, it's very hands-on.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just grow a fish, when it's time to harvest, pull it out, sell it. You're handling, quote unquote, handling these fish several times through its life.
Yeah, it's just like any other crop. I mean, people don't think of fish as being a crop, but it's very much so. We're putting our crop out to grow, and then we're feeding them every day. I mean, we feed every day. It's above 45 degrees. We're out feeding the fish, and then when they are the size and color, sometimes we need to move them, and then sometimes they're ready to be brought into our shipping building to ship.
Okay, before we talk about shipping, I want to talk about the market and who is purchasing these fish.
Yeah, so we're selling all across North America, into Canada, and we sell into Puerto Rico as well. A lot of our market is wholesale, so business to business, and historically, Ozark has always been business to business, either selling to other fish farms or other pet stores. So a majority of our fish go into pet stores, your big chain shops, but also your mom and pop shops, and then water gardens, landscapers, pond stockers. It's a really, really diverse category of customers. Even some of our crayfish go to zoos to feed otters.
Well, you talk about other fish. We've talked about koi and goldfish. What are those other obscure fish that maybe aren't as pretty?
So we call them like our they're like our scavengers kind of thing. We're not trying to raise them, but we have them because we have the fish. So things like crayfish or crawdads, bullfrog tadpoles, snails. So we have trapdoor snails, and then another fish called a mosquito fish, which is like a gambusia, which is kind of like the seed tick of fish. It's just kind of everywhere. Like it's just in our ponds, kind of basically naturally.
So these things that you mentioned are naturally. You're not breeding for them, but you're harvesting them and selling them because there is a need in the market.
Right, and they're a byproduct of our fish. And so, like, I'd rather not have any bullfrog tadpoles because that means I wouldn't have bullfrogs. But I have bullfrogs that eat a ton, like a lot of fish, and so I'm able to sell those tadpoles as a way to recoup some of the costs. Crawdads don't eat the fish, but they do scrape them up, and they make some of my ornamental quality fish not ornamental quality. Like, so if they still be a fine fish to sell maybe as a bait level, but not as the ornamental level because they've lost scales or they've ripped a tail or something.
So you're shipping all across North America. How do you ship a fish?
Yeah, good question. We used to. So in the 20s, 30s, and 40s, we shipped in a big metal tin, big can. It was like a galvanized tin that would go on the railroad. So we shipped fish all across the country via railroad, and those tins would come back to us, or cans would come back to us. The 40s, it stopped being as reliable, and we couldn't put very many fish in that container. So we actually patented how to ship live fish in a cardboard box. And so about the same time, plastic was becoming more readily available, and so cardboard and water don't mix, right? So you need a bag, right? That plastic bag in between. So we'll take a cardboard box, put any insulation that's needed. So if it's really hot or really cold, we'll put either foil or styrofoam insulation, a gel.
So that allows year round.
Yes, it allows us to ship year round. And again, it keeps it insulated. So like if it's too hot or too cold, it usually that keeps the water inside at a relative temperature, or at least keeps it from changing quickly. Goldfish and koi can handle a wide range of water temperatures. You just can't change that temperature quickly. So that will at least slow down the rate that water's changing. And so they have the insulation. We have a gel ice pack in there when it's really hot, right, to keep it cool. We can't use dry ice because you get too cold, right? So we use a gel ice pack. And then the plastic bag, we always double bag it just in case one gets a hole. Or most of our fish are really small, so we don't have to worry about them puncturing the bag. But in transport, you just never know what's going to happen. So we always double bag it. And then you're going to add water. Typically for the size of box we have, it's like 1.5 gallons. It's kind of really small because the most important thing when you're shipping fish is not the water, it's the oxygen. So we add pure, like hospital grade oxygen into that box. Typically it's at a ratio of like 1 part water, 2 parts oxygen.
So you're not naturally just like filling with water, tying it off like you would.
We're adding, like, there's like an oxygen gun that we add oxygen to.
Okay.
You take out all the air that
more important than the water.
Right, yeah, pretty much. I mean, they need the water because that's how they transfer it on their gills. But we've had boxes that like have arrived with full of water, and the fish aren't alive because they didn't have oxygen in that water, as opposed to the opposite. If a box gets punctured at the bottom and the water slowly leaks out, they need very little water. I mean, there's still going to be stress, and that's not the ideal no matter what, but the oxygen is definitely the more important ingredient in that box.
You talked about stress. Healthy fish.
Right.
You know, you want to certify that every fish that goes off your out of the pond and off the farm is healthy. Do you just have like a fish veterinarian that like
we
stamps
do
the certification?
It's a good question. There's a lot of challenge with that because there are not a lot of fish vets out there, and so we have to educate our own vets, our own local vets, and I had vet students from Mizzou come last year, and just wanting to introduce them to aquaculture so they wouldn't be scared of fish in general. But so we have our own vet that comes out, and to be able to ship into Canada, we have a vet that comes out every week that checks fish health. A lot of it's like our own staff has to have that knowledge of what's going on.
On-the-job training.
Right. What's going on with the fish? How do we treat that? Like, do we treat it in our tanks, or do we put them back in the ponds and let them recover before we ship them out? Because, I mean, the goal, we're shipping a live perishable product, and the goal is to get that to the customer live, right? And so if I'm not shipping a healthy product, it's not going to arrive in a healthy manner.
So we've talked about predators, and we've talked about the importance of oxygen and water. What is the other big factor when you're worrying about the fish's health? Are there other diseases or other things that can affect them?
Not really diseases. For me, the big thing to get it to the customer healthy is that my delivery, the delivery services can get it there on time. So
the transportation,
right? So after we put that oxygen in there, we're going to tip or tie that bag. We're going to seal that bag, and then we're going to tape that box up, and then we weigh them to get how much they're going to weigh. But like as a company, our number one expense used to be employees. It's now freight, and so we're shipping these fish on UPS and FedEx, just like any of your other packages, and I'm shipping them in the box. I'm shipping them to arrive within 24 hours. So I am packaging them.
No matter how far.
Right. No matter how far. And we're paying for that overnight service, right? But unfortunately, it doesn't always happen, right? Just like your Amazon packages get delayed, our fish packages get delayed. And so we have to package them to know that they're going to be fine if that's okay, or that the person they're going to knows how to handle them when they arrive. And so to me, I always ship my fish for 24-hour delivery, but I can't always count on the delivery service to get it there.
And are you tracking it along the way?
Yeah.
Like you know when it's delivered.
Correct. Yeah. And so every morning we're checking to make sure that things are moving. And sometimes we know like how things track better than like we call FedEx or UPS customer service.
They never know where anything is.
Yeah. And I'm like, we know, and we know if it's unusual. And that's really the only reason we call is if there's something unusual about what's being tracked, and trying to figure out, because a lot of times it will get to the station, but if it missed the sort or missed something, all it takes is one person carrying enough to like go either let someone come pick it up, or a little extra effort can go a long way to getting those fish delivered, because they're a live product, and our goal is to get them there within 24 hours so that they arrive healthy.
Now, my memory is not great, but I believe when we were there, you had a local truck come from St. Louis. Is it one that picks up?
So yes, sometimes FedEx and UPS have changed how they pick up over the years, but like we have a truck that comes every day that picks up for both FedEx and UPS, and they take them. Sometimes they'll take them directly to the airport. Sometimes they'll go to a hub, and then it just depends on the time of year and the amount of boxes we have going out. So typically we have lots and lots of boxes going out May, June, and July. We ship year round, but like this time of year, where in November it's very, very few boxes, as opposed to in the summertime we're talking like we could have 500 to 600 boxes go out of each of our 2 farms every day in the summertime.
So you talked about wholesale and where that goes, but let's say I want to buy a fish. Can I buy a goldfish or a koi from you directly?
Not technically Ozark Fisheries, but we do have a pet partnership, and it's called Toledo Goldfish, and it's basically us, but we are able to provide service for individuals, so it's smaller amounts. So our wholesale customers are buying thousands and thousands of fish at a time, right? And so the individual person, you need it packaged a little bit differently, you need it shipped a little bit differently, and you don't want to pay shipping for it, right? Nothing, you don't want to pay shipping on anything. So it's all packaged into one price. And so we've got smaller options as opposed and more diverse options than our wholesale customers have.
So Stowlin, Missouri, right off I-44. We talked about the importance of water, but the efficiency in shipping and your location has to be great because you're right off the interstate.
Yeah.
And both farm locations are.
So our Indiana farm is actually better location because it's better suited. It's right, they're right outside of Indianapolis. And so Indianapolis is one of the FedEx hubs. And so we're able to ship fish, and they are sorted at that hub right there. And it's closer to an airport. So we still do ship a lot of air freight. So I kind of skipped over between the time we went from railroad to like FedEx and UPS. In between, there was mainly air freight. So we're taking fish from our farm to the airport to be shipped out. And we still do a lot of that. So we still take fish every week only from our Indiana farm, because Missouri, we're 2 hours from an airport. So it's easier to do it out of our Indiana farm.
So let's talk a little bit more about that Indiana farm. Not to the thing that happened just last week. We'll get to that. Your busy season.
Right.
But the purchase of that second farm and how that happened.
Yeah. So our Indiana farm was originally called Grassy Fork Fisheries. It was bought by my family. So my great-grandfather bought it around the 1970. And so it's been in my family a long time, but at the time it was his largest competitor. And so he bought out his largest competitor that was retiring out of the business, and we had 2 locations. And so that opened a lot of opportunity for us. If one farm is out of fish, the other farm might have it. If one farm has a disaster. So we had a flood in Missouri in 2022, a big flood, and Indiana was able to take the rest of that volume of what was going out. Like our customers had no idea it happened because all of the boxes we were supposed to ship got shipped out that day. Just the Indiana farm took them, and the Missouri farm was able to recover for the next shipping day. But having those 2 farm locations is really important. Grassy Fork Fisheries is actually your oldest privately owned fish farm that's still in operation today, and it was started in 1899. So it's got a rich history, especially in Martinsville, the town that it's in.
Well, when you think of like agriculture and Missouri agriculture, Indiana agriculture, we think of how deep the roots are, but to think that, I just don't think of aquaculture and the fishery, especially the pet industry of goldfish, would be that sustaining, that old, that have that heritage.
Yeah, there's just not that many of us. And unfortunately, it's just gotten smaller and smaller. But yeah, I mean, goldfish have been raised here a really, really long time.
Random question. See if I can stump you. When was the first goldfish brought to the U.S.?
Good question. It was for a World's Fair.
Of course.
The answer is I really don't know what year, but I think in the early, like, the 1850s. So it was brought over for a World's Fair. And so, like, a lot of cool things, right? Like a novelty item. And then people started, really the government started just passing them out too. They were like free, like just kind of throw it, whoever wants one. And then the demand grew. And goldfish are really probably one of your most well-known fish out there, like most recognizable fish out there, even across the world.
And okay, difference between a koi and a goldfish is genetics. They're different type of fish, but goldfish can be multiple colors.
Right.
Koi can be multiple colors.
Yeah. So
I don't know if I would look at them and know the difference.
Koi are literally like colored carp. And so I think now they have a different, they are different, but in general, they are literally a colored carp. And so they have more of a carp-like body, which is like, I don't even know how to describe it.
What is a carp-like body?
They just get a lot bigger.
Okay.
And so, to me, they look a lot more athletic. Goldfish are kind of like their
pretty sisters?
Pretty sisters. Or pretty cousins, maybe.
Pretty cousins. Cousins.
And so they're less athletic looking, and they can't get as large. And they're more vulnerable to predation. So like any predators can really eat a goldfish. So like bass, catfish, crappie, they're all predator fish, and they're going to be able to take out a goldfish, as opposed to koi can live longer that way. But in general, these are ornamental, so they're not for you to like release anywhere. They are for pets. You're supposed to be in your own backyard aquarium or pond.
So we talked about we've talked a lot about history. We talked about who your customer is, who the market is, but like, how are things changed? How has that market, that customer changed, that pet industry changed?
Yeah, and so the biggest change is us going from only doing wholesale to now doing direct to consumer. And so that we were kind of forced into that when Walmart got out of the pet industry game. So Walmart doesn't have fish in their stores anymore. And so we were kind of forced to change and supply customers in a different way. And so that Toledo Goldfish, that like pet partnership we have, is like on Amazon. So we're selling live fish on Amazon, eBay, Walmart.com. So your e-commerce type customer, because where do you buy everything these days? Basically online, right? And so, and a lot of your smaller mom and pop pet stores also were going out of business about the same time, because up until 2000, really the pet industry was on a decline. Now COVID kind of turned that around.
Everybody needed a dog.
Everybody needed a pet, right? And you also stayed home, and you might have built a pond in their backyard. And so some of our pet, like especially local pet stores, had their best years during the couple of COVID years because people were staying home. They were either going fishing or focusing on their own yards or needed entertainment. And so it kind of changed the pet industry a lot during that time.
Has that continued?
It's ebbed and flowed. I wouldn't say it's a direct like incline, but it definitely, like, the decline was because people weren't going outside. Kids are playing video games and didn't want entertainment via a pet or fishing or being outside. And so because of COVID, that kind of changed it. And I wouldn't say it changed it for good, but it at least turned that decline around.
So other changes, technology.
Yeah, it's a big one.
I mean, you're still very hands-on. And when you're packing, shipping the fish, there's someone touching everything. But the utilization of technology has to have improved and made everything efficient.
Yeah. And especially was forced when we went from a wholesale only to an e-commerce, because now we're handling like like a lot more customers, but a lot more information. So we were almost forced into it, like creating our own software system. So we've created our own software system to handle.
You mean there's not some fish shipping software out there you could just go buy?
Right. Well, and most shipping softwares would have worked a little bit, but like ours, we just have so many little niche things that like so something that our software can do is like look at the temperature. So like it looks at the temperature of where these fish are going, and it's going to package them differently based on that temperature. So like if it's going to California, it's 100 degrees, it's going to put it in a box with styrofoam and ice, like our top insulation option. But it could be 100 degrees in California and be 40 degrees in, I don't know, Minnesota, right?
Here.
Here in Missouri, right? Or even different parts of California, right? And so I don't want to be spending I don't want to ship it in a heavily insulated like styrofoam box if it doesn't need that. And so that saved us on shipping, like on packaging costs too.
What % loss do you have? Is that a fair question?
Yeah, so we guarantee all of our fish to arrive alive and in good condition. And we do have some loss. It's a live perishable product, right? But in general, we've got our shipping down, and it's about a 3% loss throughout the year. Now, in the summertime, when it's really hot, we'll lose a few more, and a lot of it has to do with delays. Like if it's delayed in the summertime, there's a chance that it won't arrive in good condition. But if it's delayed in the wintertime, it is probably fine 48 hours in that box. Now, we still ship them all for 24-hour delivery, but a delay can change that. But in general, about a 3% loss throughout the year.
Dare I ask what flight delays, how they impact you? With TSA shortages, government shutdowns, is it impacting your delivery time?
No, because a lot of our fish are shipped FedEx and UPS. So but just in general, they'll have an unexpected delay if there's a lightning or something, like
weather.
It'll throw it around. Weather is probably more an act of God, is what they call it, and they don't. And unfortunately, they don't guarantee them anymore. So like they used to give us the freight back if they delivered them late, and they really don't do that anymore.
You just have to eat the cost,
right?
But you're guaranteeing that to your customer, and that customer is going to be reoccurring.
Yeah. So no, the recent issues have not affected at all. Very, very little, because we do a lot of our fish are still shipped cargo, but it doesn't have to go through TSA.
Oh, good. So we mentioned your Indiana farm, and the National FFA convention takes place every single October, and it is in Indiana. It's in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Right at your front door.
Yeah. So
what do you get to? How do you get to experience it?
We get to open our farm up and have FFAers come out to the farm and tour the farm. And so it just happened last week, and we had almost 4,500 students come through the farm in a 4-day period. So
that's a lot of kids.
Yeah, it is 8 to 4. We're giving hour-long tours, but it's really cool because we get to they're ag kids, but we get to show them the farm and our version of agriculture, which is aquaculture, which very few of them have. Really, we like ask them that question at the beginning of the tour: who's been to a fish farm? And it's usually the advisors raising their hand because they've been to the farm before.
Every year.
Yeah. Well, a lot of them have it on cycle, so they'll come every 2 or 3 years. But we enjoy sharing our farm, especially with young adults that are interested in agriculture to begin with.
What I love about your story is fourth generation. And your family moves to Indiana, or Martinsville, for that time period. You're giving the tours. Your family is the boots on the ground also. Yeah. My parents did the childcare for my brother's kids, and then my sister-in-law, my brother, and then part of our Missouri team goes to Indiana to give those tours. And it's like a well-oiled machine. I can say that the week after. The week before, it doesn't feel like that. You're already stressed. So I cannot imagine. I'm sure these high schoolers have way better questions than me. So what is the most obscure question that you received?
They're really interested in predators. They always are interested in like predation on the farm, which is a valid question. The weirdest question. I don't know if I have one. You could maybe last week I could have come up with it. I just love so that they're all different levels of questions, and some of the groups are more science based, and so we'll get more into like how we spawn, how they're hatched, and then some of them are like just there to see the fish. And so we always like do the science part of it, and I do all my talking at the beginning of a tour.
Yes.
And then I wait to show them the fish, because once I show them the fish, I've lost them. Yeah. But it's really funny. Like I have all these beautiful goldfish and koi. everyone's favorite part, like city kid, country kid, adult, child, like is the crayfish. Like getting to pick up a crayfish and touch it. It's something about the element of danger, I think, that makes everybody like.
Well, it's tangible. I mean, they see, feel, hear, touch it, you know, and you see the fish, but don't get to touch. Yeah.
No, they put their hands in the water like throughout the whole thing. So, but it's always a crayfish.
You should send a crayfish home with every kid.
The advisors would not be very happy.
That'd be.
So my brother,
as a former advisor, I would kill you. But
my brother did the last tour of the last day. Did send some tadpoles home with a student, and I'm not really sure. I didn't ask the questions about
You're helping their SAE project.
Probably something. He definitely, I think, did ask the advisor because it was like they were heading home. They were on their way home. That's part of it. It's like they're going to be there for 2 days. I'm not going to give you fish that you're like no.
It'd be funny to threat.
I know, right?
So you do this every year. Other farm tours year-round?
Yeah, we do groups, so school groups, FFA groups, but it all has to be group tours that are pre-planned because we're so remote that we don't have a ton of visitors to the farm, and so our team is pretty streamlined to be working on raising and shipping those fish most of the time.
Well, honestly, I live in Lebanon. You're just down the road. I did not know you existed until I got that email.
Yeah.
And sadly, most of our county doesn't know you're there. And it's kind of this cool, fun, hidden gem. But the impact you have on Missouri's economy, Missouri agriculture, and the aquaculture industry is crazy. And it's right in our back door.
Yeah. I think part of it is we're kind of hidden because it's just been there literally hidden. We've been there for a really long time, and because we don't have that local market anymore, you can't just stop it and buy a fish. Most of our market is out of state. It makes it a little bit harder to want people to come on the farm, and unfortunately, it's more of a liability these days. I would love to have everybody on the farm, but these days with things that happen on the farm, we've got to be careful as well.
Yeah, you got to keep that in mind.
Right.
Aquaculture. What type of impact does aquaculture have on Missouri agriculture? Because we think cows, we think the pork industry, poultry industry, corn, soybeans. I don't think fish.
Yeah. Well, trout. Missouri's one of the biggest states that raises trout. I mean, the problem is we are big within our central region. So we're in the northeast central region as aquaculture is considered.
In the country.
Right in the country, right. And there are bigger, anyone that's against water, like against a Great Lake or the ocean is going to have a bigger impact than Missouri. But we have 20 to 30 fish farms in Missouri. There's the Missouri Aquaculture Association. There's an association for representing aquaculture. So it's got a bigger footprint than you would think.
So when we think of this industry, what's the biggest misconception? What do consumers not understand, or what's the message to listeners about aquaculture?
I think that it's out there, and that I think very few people may know that fish are raised in Missouri, and so especially ornamentals. We're very unique in the fact, but there are lots of people raising catfish, trout, and I think the biggest thing is that fish are raised in Missouri.
What's the future look like for Ozark Fisheries?
Yeah, it's exciting. My brother and I are both fourth generation. I'm on our Missouri farm. My brother's at our Indiana farm. I'm kind of the social media website type person, and he does our he's our heavy machinery operator, one of them, and then he does he's helped build the software with a developer, and so we're really trying to lean into what's next and figuring out the next steps, and also just adding diversification where we can, because if we only stick with the wholesale market, we're going to be in trouble in a few years. And so I think it's important to continue to grow and change as the industry grows and changes.
You talked about diversification. There's few farmers in the country or world that don't have some form of diversification. But we're in the Ozarks. You got beef cattle. Also,
right,
Circle F cattle. That keeps your dad busy?
Kind of. No. He's more busy all the time. With a little bit of everything. But so cattle, so we do. Basically, the cattle came from my great-grandfather thought that he could control his water, his watershed around the springs by owning the land around. And we now know that our watershed's 30, 40 miles away, so we can't really protect that watershed. We can, but so we bought up all the land that wasn't suitable for fish. And so starting in the 50s, he started clearing that land and adding cattle to the farm. And just kind of, we've built our herd ever since then. We've put a lot of effort in the last 20 years to really clear land, make more room for cattle. We're a commercial cow-calf operation, raising Black Angus. And this year, we've actually gotten to beef as well. So diversifying not just a commercial operation, but growing out and selling our own beef direct to consumer. It's kind of those like, now we've built the fish wholesale direct to consumer, and now the beef.
You've got the platform already.
Right. And kind of we figured out how to sell online. And so the big step we're working on right now is figuring out how to ship. I can ship fish, but now I've got to figure out how to ship beef.
Mastery of that.
I know.
You're going to have to add a freezer to the shipping house.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, exactly.
You are. You already are.
Right.
Of course. Okay, so we've talked about the future, but we've not talked about the 100 years very much. So over those 100 years, you're in 2026, your dad's writing a book about those 100 years.
Yeah, our 100th centennial book. We're really excited about it. And we're really excited to hopefully share our farm in special ways. We're kind of planning out what that's going to look like right now, but we're going to apply for Century Farm, which is going to be another big step, something fun. But it's really amazing how much the farm has grown in 100 years. And just thinking about like what my great-grandfather would look at, like, I mean, the technology would literally just blow him away. I think he would like it because he was always kind of wanting to move forward and into technology of that time, right?
Yeah.
And so,
well, I mean, just the changing of the bucket that you shipped in, that type of simple container.
Yeah, and it's really special because my grandmother's still here, and so she's able to share her 100th year with us as well.
So 3 generations still living on the farm.
Right.
That is fascinating. That is a story in itself. What would you say in those 100 years was the greatest challenge that the family had to overcome?
There have been lots of challenges throughout the years, and I think just changing. I think when my great grandfather passed away, like that was a big one because it was unexpected. And then when my dad came back, my dad joined the farm in the 90s, and changing at that time, like there was no technology on the farm or very little, and so he brought computers to the farm, and like in general, I think technology is probably the biggest thing for any farmer, right? And then, but also not just the technology, but like being accepting of it and wanting to integrate it, because
and that next generation on the farm,
right? And that's our biggest challenge right now is trying to figure out how my brother and I work together to continue the farm on.
Well, I always want to end with some fun, more introspective questions with my guests.
Yeah.
So, Margaret, what would you tell 18-year-old Margaret?
I think the biggest thing that I did that I really liked is like studying abroad and going abroad, like leaving the farm. I think that was like one of the best decisions I ever made, is leaving the farm for a period of time, so you get that perspective. I think I would definitely congratulate 18-year-old me for deciding to go ahead and study abroad or live abroad for a period of time.
And I think that the empowerment from your family to say, yeah, that's okay.
I don't know that they were on board either.
Oh,
but
okay.
I kind of just
still questioning it.
Pushed it forward. I don't think my mom definitely wasn't on board with me moving across.
Good job, 18-year-old Margaret.
But yeah, putting my foot down and being like, this is what I'm going to do. And so I think that has opened up my life significantly and allowed me to also have more perspective being back on the farm and appreciation for the farm, living on it now.
So was there ever a plan B for you?
Not really. Fish farming was always it. I thought that I wanted to be a vet for a while, and I think
a fish vet.
And in hindsight, 18-year-old stuff, I probably should have, because we need fish vets. But I didn't love the surgery kind of aspect of it, or the having to stitch something up. So, which vets all don't have to do. But
do fish vets stitch up any?
No. It's more like health, like health things.
You just had to be a fish vet. You have to go through all those other classes,
right? Yeah, you'd have to go through the whole process,
yes,
right?
Absolutely.
And so I think in hindsight, it would have been nice if I had done that, but then also I probably wouldn't have had the time to study abroad and do all the things abroad I did. So I'm good with where I'm at, but it would have been helpful at this stage if I was a vet.
Well, Margaret, thank you for letting us go beyond the gate. Anything else that you want to share with listeners?
No, I don't think so. We learned a lot about fish today. I mean, that's what's exciting.
Now, I hope that I can remember this, because I feel like I've learned all this before, and I'm like, man, Second time's a charm.
Second time.
That's
Maybe
fascinating.
the third time's the charm.
Okay. Well, Margaret, where can listeners go to learn more about Toledo Goldfish, Ozark Fisheries website,
so
social?
Ozark Fisheries is all at Ozark Fisheries. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.
A new venture.
Kind of, yeah. And then same thing for Toledo Goldfish. It's Toledo Goldfish for Instagram and Facebook and TikTok. We're kind of just getting started into that. But I update things from the farm, and I share about life on the farm, our fish. A lot of times I'm sticking my phone in the water in our tanks. It's amazing with iPhones what you can shoot.
You've got great social because you really do. Everything we talked about today, you've painted that picture, and it's on social.
Yeah.
You can see it.
Right.
Well, thank you, Margaret, for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Beyond the Gate. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to give us a like and subscribe to the channel. We've got new episodes dropping every other Wednesday. If you want even more local content, follow Around the Ozarks on Facebook and Instagram. Or you can go to aroundtheozarks.com and subscribe to our daily newsletter. Join me next time for more stories of grit, growth, and spirit of rural life.